So, welcome back to my part two of my mini series on how to be a successful filmmaker, sharing tips, hacks, and advice and support to people out there who may not have any money, may not have an A-list star, may not have a big studio, but just driven by the love of film. So, today I really wanted to touch on three big issues that a lot of people miss out on. One of them is copyright, one of them is licensing, and the other one is on a business plan. And you think, why do I need all these things? And it really is so easy when you're making films to find yourself in real trouble, particularly if your work becomes successful. So, for example, whenever you've got anybody in a film, you must have written consent. So anybody that you interview in your film, anybody that acts in your film, always get a consent form that they are happy for your film to include them, and that they're happy as part of the deal that you have with them for you to sell your film and your work to other networks, and they are happy with what they have. And this is really important. It also creates goodwill because these people will help market your film, but it is also a legal requirement that no big streamer like Netflix or Apple TV would take your work if there's not all the paperwork in order. The other thing is you think, oh God, business plan, I'm a filmmaker, I'm a creative. It really is important for a filmmaker to make a business plan. How do you know how much your film is going to cost you unless you have a business plan? And a lot of the time you think, oh, I'm going to make a film for, $5,000, or I'm going to make a film for 1.5 million, or I'm going to make a movie for 5 million. I'm just going to come up with a figure and hopefully somebody gives me the money. It doesn't work like that. So you really need to do a business plan. You don't need to pay anybody for a business plan. You can search online for a film business plan, look at a film or a project which is similar to yours, and Google it, search it out, and find their business plan. And that you can then use AI. I'm not a fan of AI, but to help you do a business plan, AI is a really good format for that. And then put into it the details you want so you have a really good business plan. And the things you really need in a business plan are: one, why is your project important? Why are you making this film, this series, this documentary? Why does it matter? Who wants to watch this film? Why is there an audience for it? Is there a similar type of production which has been a huge success? Why are you making your film? And that's really and what your audience is really the first question that you should have on your business plan. Why you're making this film. Include a poster, which I always say is crucial when you're actually making a film. You should always make sure you have a poster that reflects your vibe of the film, gives a little strap line, a couple of paragraphs about what the film is about, and also gives a little bit of information so people, if they're on streaming services, or people, glancing at your application along with 100 others, yours will stand off the table and be something that you want to read more about. So it's really important that you have the poster, because that's the thing that will generate the initial impact and the initial interest in your work. And then make it clear why your product is unique, why your filming and your technique and the story that you're going to tell is unique to you, and why it's really important this film is made, whether it's from a commercial perspective, from an activist perspective, or whether it's from a great story perspective. Everybody will have a different reason why they want to tell their stories, so it's really important to do that. Then you also want to need to write about how and who is going to be working on the film. So sometimes what you can do, if you've got a really good script, is send it to management teams or casting directors of people you have in mind who will be in your film. And they may not want to be in your film, or they may suddenly decide they like the script and want to be in your film. There's a lot of famous people who have been in great movies who often do it for free, or they do it for a cut of the revenue the film generates. So don't think, oh, because you're a nobody in terms of A-list structure in films and Hollywood and all this stuff, that's going to stop you from working with big people. In the same way as when you're doing the invite as to who you want in the cast, give a description of who's going to be in the production, their skill set, what they've been in, what they haven't been in, and why you've chosen them to be in the film. And then you also want to progress and do things like the costings. And the costing is really, really important. If you're using a casting director and using somebody famous or a martial arts expert, they will tell you what their rate is. If you're using a cameraman or a few runners, a few teams, you can get rates from Equity, the Filmmakers Union in the UK, as an idea of guidance of what to charge. And you can also, people will tell you if you're going to work with them what they're going to charge you for their time. So you can include that in the business plan. But also you need to do the unseen stuff in the business plan. So you need to include things like, travel to venues, the cost of hiring venues, costumes. Sometimes a venue will give you the venue for free if you ask, in exchange for a credit. A lot of venues really, really need to get more revenues coming through the door, and a film is a great opportunity to raise awareness of their space, and they may get other film companies on the back of your work wanting to use their space. So many venues will work for free, but again you need written consent. It would be a legal requirement when eventually you make your production, you want to sell it, having the consents all in place from day one. And it's a really simple signing process. You can download something online, just look for consent forms on film actors and venues online, and it costs you nothing. Remember, a lot of people will be out there trying to scam you, whether it's people saying you need them to do business plans, you need them to do their PR, you need them for marketing, you need them for casting. You can do everything yourself. These people will leech off you, they will do everything they can to make money out of you, when the reality is that you need every penny you can get to make your production. And once it's successful, hopefully you will make money, but you've got to look after the pennies now so that long term you have a successful and viable business proposal. The next thing you really, really need to do is look at sort of the legal side of your business plan. Do you need any consents, any licensing? A lot of people don't realise that, on social media people copy and paste all sorts of images. Some of it's fake, some of it's real. It's actually not lawful if you're going to make money out of it. So if you're doing like film work, you can take to a certain extent cuttings from documentaries, for example, like what I do, and you can use what's called fair use. So as long as you use part of somebody else's work, give them a credit for it, but do not make it the key point of your work, i.e. it's not the main part of the film that generates your revenue. Then you don't actually need to have to pay somebody for that. It's called fair use. And you can usually use that on things like YouTube and all the main streaming networks. Be comfortable with that. It's very, very different with images. For example, photography. Sometimes it's easy to pay somebody like Getty Images at £100–150 to use a photograph, because straight away you're going to have a license agreement, it's going to be all there, and you're not going to have anybody coming back to you with due diligence when you actually sell your production by saying, oh, well, where did you get the consent from this photograph? Where did you get this image from? So if you can use, legitimate film libraries or film photo agencies, it's always good to use them, because straight away you can have the legal paperwork, even though it's going to cost you a bit of money. But it's worth it for peace of mind, and long term you're not going to have difficulties with the production. The other thing a lot of people misunderstand is music licensing. When I started making my film, Tupac Shakur, Life and Murder of a legend, a music legend and revolutionary, which I'm working on at the moment, I wanted to use the song Dear Mama. And I was really quite shocked. To get the consent for Dear Mama, I needed 11 different consents, 11 from different record companies, different people had their music mixed in it. And it was so complicated. I thought, you know what, I'm not going to do music, I'm going to just use poetry, I'm going to write my own music, I'm going to do that. And I have actually written my own music before. When I did my play, Liberty, people said to me, oh, the audience for your film is 35 plus, and I wanted to reach young people. And so somebody said, write music. If you put music in a play, it will attract a much younger crowd. And so I wrote 3 songs, Forbidden Love, She's Trouble, and Fly the Flag, for my play Liberty and my film, Kath Duncan, The Untold Struggle for Civil Rights. And it really worked, because I had kids as young as 10 loving the songs, and that really meant a lot, because my work's about inclusivity and reaching the widest range of people. I don't want to reach just old fogies like me. I actually want young people to be inspired by the stories that I tell. So that was really, really important to me. So again, it's really important making you aware that music can be a nightmare. It might be a good idea to use a friend who's a musician to include their work in your film, but again, get it all signed up so that it's all legit. The other thing a lot of people make mistakes of, they think, oh, I'm going to record Mozart or Beethoven. They've been dead a long time. There's no problem with copyright. In part, that's true. If you record Mozart or Beethoven's work yourself, or you do it on air, there isn't a problem with that. The moment you use a recording, let's say from the London Philharmonic Orchestra, you are then breaching their copyright. So it's not about the music, it's about the performer and the organisation behind it. So again, you have to be really, really careful with that. And I do think it's crazy that I can go today and pay a license to use the photograph, but to actually use music, I need so many different consents and it would take so long time, I just can't be bothered. And the reality with that is it makes it harder for musicians in a very competitive world now to make more money. But it also, it makes more and more filmmakers use AI to create music because it's so complicated, so difficult trying to get consent and licensing to use music. So again, be wary of that. The other aspect to business planning, of course, is how you're going to distribute it. Who's going to watch the film? So it's really clear that you have an understanding what the demographic of your film is, what the audience is, and you make that clear in your business plan, along with how you're going to sell or market your film. And my little films that you can see, 1 of 4, this is 2 of 4, will give you advice on distribution, which platforms to use, which may be relevant whether you're an LGBT filmmaker, whether you're a Black History maker, whether you're a horror filmmaker, whatever your genre is, I'll be going through that in these little films. And that's really, really important. So it's very clear who your audience is, how you're going to market it, how you're going to get your reach, because that's how your investors and people that are giving you money or supporting your film will see the revenue streams. And of course, that's how you, as a filmmaker, are going to make money. So it's really, really important that you get that together. And then finally, you really need to be on top of things like how you're going to do the social media, how you're going to do your marketing. And I'm just starting to do the YouTube thing because I'm now starting to be confident in making more and more films. And as you make more and more films, you get, and I use the Film Festival Network, so my films are becoming more and more broad range, and I've won nearly 100 film awards globally so far. And I'm not doing this to brag or to be narcissistic, it's just that with that comes huge amount of correspondence, and I think it's really important. People like your work, that they're able to communicate with you. They can email you, they can find out about what your next project is. And so I've decided to now make these short films to share with people about what projects I'm working on, why I'm making these films, to help and advise other people about the pitfalls, the problems I've had, but also the little tips I've got that can actually help you make your product, your film, your series or your documentary really, really successful by making sure you don't make the mistakes that I make and other filmmakers have made. So the business plan, I think, is clear that you really need to, let's put it back, you need to do who the audience is for the film, who's working on the film and all aspects of it, their experience, the economic side, the cost, how much is actually going to cost. And it's interesting that when you actually start putting the costs into your film, what you actually need, who you need to pay, you will suddenly realise that your film might only cost $2,500 or it might need 5 million. But by doing that costing, you will know exactly what your film is going to cost, and that is crucial to when you go into your funding streaming options that are out there. It also, when you're trying to get distribution before you're even making the film, sometimes having that business plan will get you a contract before you've even made the film. So it's a really, really good thing to do. So the economics, the PR, the marketing, who the audience is, where you're going to be selling it, and also if there's any legal, put in sort of anything that you think that may be relevant. Is there any legal issues that could be there? For example, like copyright, highlight the fact that if you have written the music, that there isn't copyright issues with the music because you have personally written the music, or you've written poetry or whatever. So that, again, is really, really important to include that in what you're doing. And the other thing is licensing. What I find is it's not a great idea this day and age to actually sign up. A lot of people will suddenly want to be part of your movie as soon as it wins its first award. That can be a bit of a disaster. What you actually need to do is only restrict distribution companies and licensing for 12 months. It's quite shocking how many distribution companies will sign you up for your work and never pay you. I had one a couple of years ago. I signed a deal in another European country, never got paid a penny, and then started getting emails and texts from people in that particular country about the film, when technically it wasn't being screened in that country. And I chased the distributor to ask, why aren't you paying me? And they said, well, you sue us. Of course, small independent poor filmmaker, I couldn't sue them. So I take more control these days. You don't actually need to have a distributor. You don't need all these people leeching off you. Through my films, you'll be able to do this very much yourself. And it's also good to create a platform to sort of hold your work and to look to put all your work in it long term. So I use Vimeo on demand, which hopefully if you're on that, you will become a friend of mine. Just subscribe to my Vimeo on demand. In the same way with this film, please subscribe, share it widely with people that you know in film that might be struggling in some shape or form to try and get their work made. And even if they've made the film, it may be that they can't get beyond the screening stage or even get it into film festivals. So this series of films will help you with that. So again, be really, really tight on copyright because the repercussions are too dangerous, and music in particular. License your work rather than distribute it for more than 12 months, and do the business plan, because those are really, really the three most important aspects to your film. So when you're applying for funding, I'm going to tell you about that in episode 3, making money and distribution. It's really, really important for you that you have it all in place. So although it's a bit tedious doing this with AI, it's the only aspect of AI I recommend filmmakers use. You can create a really, really good film. And you don't necessarily need to use film. It's amazing how simple it is when you've got passion and you're driven with an idea, how suddenly you can write music. Things will come to you. I never thought I could write music. I never thought I could be a filmmaker. And here I am now, making 2 films a year, having my film screened all over the world, and being successful at it. And now telling you and sharing that success with you on here. So thank you very much for watching this episode. Remember, the next one coming is making money and distribution, which is really, really crucial, because everybody in film and arts generally always have great ideas and they never know how to deal with making money or how to raise it. And so my next one, part 3, will tell you how to do that. And it's really important with the film that you watch them in order. My introduction about how I got into filmmaking is useful, because you then get behind who I am. And then also, if you watch them 1, 2, 3, 4, that will help you put the structure of your film and your project together in a way that's cohesive and actually successful, and give you, a really lot of confidence to go out there and make this film. And if you've made it, how to market it and how to get it to the audience that you want it to reach, because the way I make my films is very different from anybody else. I'm not obsessed with mainstream media coverage. I build my work by word of mouth. Now I'm doing it through social media. But I think it's really important that you're true to your work. You don't sell yourself short. You do what you feel is right, which is in your gut. And you make great films because that's what you think you can do. Never let anybody cut you short. Art is subjective. Some people will love your work, some people will hate it. Some film festivals will give you a shed load of awards. Others won't even select you. That's life. But you've just got to make sure that you're happy with what you're doing. It's all in place. You've got all the legals in place. You've got the license